maybe that wasn't the ending, and maybe he really did die. It's something to think about, isn't it? And that's basically how it ends, because that's how Dickens does it. So you have this theme of judge not, and ye shall not be judged. You have this theme of how poverty isn't a choice that you make, and when you're in poverty and you resort to criminal activity in order to survive and to provide for your family, does that really truly make you a bad human being, or does that put you in a situation of desperation? It's a really wonderful story, and part of what he wanted to get across at the time was that there needed to be more social welfare programs in England to help those in dire straits. And and I think it's a theme and a message that still rings true today. I was just having a conversation on Facebook that I eventually had to bow out of, because I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I've said everything I have to say. But we were having a discussion about addiction and poverty, and how the two are interconnected and actually make the other worse, and all that. But it's still a very relevant subject today. But I think what I came away with most of all from the Chimes was this idea and of moral grayness, and I think it's been in the back of my mind for the past few weeks. I read it a few weeks ago, or listened to it a few weeks ago, I should say. But it's been in the back of my mind for the past few weeks, because I've been listening to the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. And I've been watching Riverdale. I've been binge watching Riverdale. Because I love me some Jughead Jones. Ooh, Juggy! Anyways, side note. But the reason that I bring them up is because both of those really involve a lot of gray morality, where these characters are faced with, well, I know this is wrong because the law says it's wrong, or because authority says it's wrong, or because my dad says it's wrong, but I need to go against that and do something. I need to do it anyways because of something that I believe to be right. And, and I have to protect the people I love, and I have to hurt somebody now so that I don't hurt them later, and, there's a lot of gray morality in Riverdale, and in A Song of Ice and Fire. And so I think that's kind of where the Chimes is coming from, where it's like, you know what, yes, it's a tragedy that this mother would do a murder-suicide with, kill her child and kill herself, drown the two of them in the river. That's a horrible thing. That's a horrible tragedy. But if you take the time to understand what brought about that tragedy, you go, oh, okay, I get it. And you don't judge them as harshly. You don't judge her decision as harshly. Instead, you go, well, wait a minute. And a lot of people could say, well, that just contributes to victim mentality and all that. And that's another moral discussion for another time that I really don't want to have on this show, because this is literature. But, but in literature, you have these sort of moral discussions and ideas. So it's a really thought-provoking little book, and I really enjoyed it, which is really weird because I don't like Dickens. Well, I mean, I do like Dickens, don't get me wrong. There's a reason that we study him 150 plus years later. But he's really hard to get through because he'll pack like 3 different sentences into one sentence, and so this one sentence ends up being a grammatically correct paragraph that has one period. And so it's just like, Trotty did blah 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 blah. He did this for blah 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 because blah 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 blah. But he did this anyways, and so he went over here and not over there because, and it's all one sentence, and you just kind of go, too much exposition, Chuck. Shut up. Get to the point. Trotty went to the church. Boom. Let's simplify it like Douglas Adams. Oh, thank God Douglas Adams is not like Charles Dickens. Anyways, but he's really hard to get through, but he's really well worth it because there's a certain amount of poetry in his writing. And as I was listening to the Chimes, I kept thinking about this poem by Edgar Allan Poe. It was written or published at least, a couple of years after this. Anyways, Edgar Allan Poe, The Bells. And if I knew how to do it, I would play you a clip of MC Lyres rapping The Bells in a song called Rock the Bells. But there's a certain amount, especially when Dickens is describing the chimes, and especially, when Trotty goes up into this tower and the chimes have transformed into these goblins and whatever. And there's a certain amount of, poetry to the descriptiveness of that, a certain amount of onomatopoeia, and I mean, it's just vivid, and it's an amazing description. Awful to get through when you're just listening, but thankfully I listened while I was assembling pens at work. But it was really beautiful. But it made me think of The Bells by Edgar Allan Poe. And by the way, the two I do not believe are related at all. I tried to see if there was some kind of connection, like maybe the Chimes inspired Poe or Poe inspired the Chimes, and which would be impossible, but because The Bells was published in 1849, I think. Maybe. Anyways, I'll just say, it's a really good poem, and it has a really good flow, and it's got a lot. I think it is my favorite Edgar Allan Poe, but there's not much of a connection I can find between the two. Even I don't even want to say thematically, because the Chimes is mostly just this literary device that Chucky uses to kind of connect with this main character, and sort of this excuse that he uses to do a Christmas Carol on New Year's Eve. So, but whereas The Bells is mostly about how different bells carry you through different phases in your life, and so there's a certain amount of hope, but it ends in despair, as inevitably all EAP poetry does, but we'll cover that another time. So anyways, that is The Chimes by Charles Dickens, and I think that's all I have to say about that. So, if you would like to follow me on social media, where you can see pictures of my toodaloo sitting on my notes and giving me "I will eat you in your sleep" looks. You can follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Well, less Facebook than the other three. For the pictures of the cat, anyways. By following the handle at PurpleBecca923. That's PurpleBecca 923. What does the 923 stand for, you ask? That is my birthday. Remember it. Also, it's the only way I know how to get MC Lars's attention. Oh, yes. I think if he ever sees the numbers 923, like, he goes, oh, Becca. Anyways, I don't know for sure, and I highly doubt it, but it makes me feel good to think that I'm that important. You may also email me at purplebubblespace, all one word, all spelled out, at gmail.com, PURPLEBUBBLESPACE at gmail.com. You can check out my website, purplebubblespace.simdiff.com. There's a link to it on my Spreaker profile, and I think also on iTunes. Not entirely sure. And, is that all I have to say about that? Yes. So, next week, we will be back with American Gods, and go from there. So, until then, remember that education is fresh, literacy is essential, so go out there, create what you deserve, and fly with the penguins. I'll explain that one another time. Toodaloo!